It's just common sense, really. But mining is one of the most misunderstood things. People believe the exact opposite. When it comes to mining, you can pretty much assume everything out there is a misconception. How could China possibly stop Bitcoin mining? So Bitcoin mining, let me get straight to the point. There's industrial Bitcoin mining, and there's resistance-style Bitcoin mining. Resistance mining happens when governments heavily suppress Bitcoin mining, like in the case of Venezuela. People use household electricity and secretly mine at home using personal PCs. But because Bitcoin mining requires a huge amount of hash power, this kind of resistance mining from home is practically no longer feasible these days. Still, some people continue running full nodes due to philosophical beliefs. You can actually check this online. They're visible if you look. Even though they can't mine, they still choose to run a node with all 12 years of Bitcoin ledger, completely voluntarily. So if a government cracks down on the mining industry, resistance mining quietly re-emerges and kicks back in. That's the power of Bitcoin. So in practical terms, industrial-scale mining must cooperate with power plants, because power plants know exactly where abnormal electricity usage is happening. If it's not a place that's supposed to consume a lot of power, like a massive factory or something, and yet they're using a ton of electricity, then it's clearly what's going on. So no, you can't hide industrial mining. That's why both governments and power stations must engage with Bitcoin mining in a very cooperative way. For many reasons. Countries like China, which refuse to recognize Bitcoin at all, or Canada, which lacks pro-Bitcoin policies, are good examples. But aside from cases like those, in most cases, power plants and miners end up forming a close and necessary relationship. Even so, there's something you must not misunderstand. If industrial mining is fully exposed, doesn't that make Bitcoin vulnerable? Some people might think that, but if mining is cracked down on, resistance-style home mining will once again resurface and continue. And globally, the idea of the whole world wiping out mining overnight, if that's what you're imagining, well, you are mistaken. Such a thing will never happen. China controls all the mining power, or China dominates mining. Honestly, those are absolute nonsense. Mining is done through pools, and this system was actually anticipated by Satoshi Nakamoto. Mining pools themselves can't hold that much absolute power. The statistics you see when people say things like China has a mining monopoly, I've written in my book 70%, 80% figures. Those numbers come from one thing. The mining pools based in China happen to have that much hash power. About 4 or 5 major pools rotate around and take turns successfully mining blocks, but that doesn't mean that the factories full of mining rigs you see in pictures, those so-called mining factories, have all that influence, or that they dominate the market to that extent. Rather, countless these operations come together to form just one mining pool. Didn't I mention I've done mining myself? We even built a mining pool system. We actually developed it ourselves, not for Bitcoin, but for our local blockchain. Mining pools are really just IP addresses you point your miner to. So when I send my hash list, should I send it to this mining pool, or maybe to A, or maybe to B? It's just about choosing which IP to send my hash data to. If the headquarters of a mining pool decides to mess up the system, or try a 51% attack, if they do that, I can switch my IP right away, and it doesn't even take 10 minutes. Once I switch, my mining goes to another pool. Bitcoin's core nature is like resistance mining. That essence is still there. But the reality today is, it's industrialized mining. And industrial mining is exposed. It's exposed because of noise and because it consumes massive electricity. In short, it can't be hidden. The Bitcoin most people use is always exposed. So in any form, it inevitably ends up working with governments. But if a government slips up, makes the wrong judgment, and decides to eliminate Bitcoin, it still won't disappear. Then again, from the grassroots, with that true Bitcoin spirit, it will rise again.